Hi, retire at 60. This is Jules. I set myself a goal to be able to retire when I was 60, which is going to be September of 2025. Today is September of 2023, so I'm coming up for my 58th birthday in the next few weeks. And I set myself some financial targets. I set myself some dreams and aspirations. Let's just see how they are coming together. Let's have a look at the financial goal. I set myself a financial goal because you cannot make any plans without a decent foundation. Retiring in Australia, we have superannuation, which is a self-funded retirement concept where you contribute a small amount each pay to your final retirement amount. And the employer contributes as well. So it has a bit of a double dip element to it. And then you can also what we call salary sacrifice, which is add additional amount, which decreases your taxable income on a fortnightly basis. And overall, it's basically you're moving money from one space to another because you're being advantaged for saving for your retirement. So I have a superannuation fund, I salary sacrifice into that, and my employer also contributes to that. And I had a goal, and that has actually reached the goal that I had set, and that was for 2025. So anything from this point forward is going to be of benefit. I have what is called a defined benefit. I realised that a defined benefit must have been a very good product, a financial product, because there was such a huge push to move people off defined benefit to an accumulation model. And I realised that that didn't sound so brilliant to me because with a defined benefit, there is a guarantee of X amount with a multiplier that you would be receiving. Where if you went to an investment type model, it was going to be influenced by the fluctuation in global markets. And we know how uncertain they are. So to guarantee yourself a set retirement, it really wasn't an option because you couldn't guarantee, where at least with a defined benefit you've got more of a goal in mind. The other thing that I chose to do was keep some money aside and set myself a financial goal that by December of 2024 I was going to have a certain amount of money that I would be able to live on for 3 years, whether that was living on here in Australia or living overseas, whether I lived in Asia or in Jordan. I am planning to have a capped amount of money that I have saved. I set that goal for December of 2024, and unfortunately I have not been able to reach that goal by December of 2024 because I've reached that goal in September of 2023. So I am actually ahead in my saving goal, but there is going to be an additional hit to that because when I started making these plans a few years ago, I didn't consider the idea of purchasing another property. So I am at the moment looking at purchasing a property in Jordan, in Amman in Jordan, just a small 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom place, and I will pay cash for that. So the money that I have saved that I was going to live on for 3 or 4 years, I'm now going to be dipping into that fund, but I'm going to also have an additional year to save that money up. Now, I've been looking online about different retirement strategies, and I have asked my accountant here in Australia, and he's advised me not to do it, not to buy any properties overseas. I asked him to find me some other resource that I'd be able to use to be able to help me with this plan, and he basically said, no, don't do it. I do have a property here in Australia and my plan is to rent that out, and I've notified my accountant of that. I have given him all of the purchase price, etc. So when I do eventually move to Jordan and I will rent the property off that I have here, I will have a tax liability here. So I want my accountant to be able to have all of the information so that One, I can make the appropriate disclosures during each financial year. And then when it does come to a period of time in the future when I was to sell this property and I have rented it off, I want all of the accurate information to be held by the accountant so that I will not get any outlandish tax liability claims on my property, because there will be an element of capital gains when I do eventually sell this property, because I've held it as my principal place of residence. I'm going to rent it off for a short period of time over the history of the property. So when I do eventually sell the property, there will be a capacity or a liability, a tax liability for capital gains. And that will be on whatever the price of the property is, whatever the increase in that property, it'll be a percentage of that increase. It isn't over the whole price of the property. It's not a percentage of, it's just for the increase in your value of your property, and it's a percentage of that. So it won't be a huge tax liability, but I have to be aware that that is going to be something I will have to contribute to at some time in the future. The other thing I am doing is I am stacking all of my stationary bills, the body corporate, because it's a unit, a complex, and my rates I am kind of paying extra in that as I go, so that when the time comes that I do rent the property off, I'm not going to have any additional bills that I wasn't budgeting for, because there will be enough buffer within my budget. And the other things that I will be using the rent for is paying for my overseas insurance policy. I will be paying for the rental manager and the rental insurance. So there's going to be some additional costs that I will incur when I rent my property off here in Australia, when I do and go and live overseas. The other thing I'm trying to do is get as much information about when I am purchasing the property in Jordan, what the process is and what my liabilities are going to be in relation to that. I have made contact with the Jordanian embassy here in Australia, and they have indicated that there is a special power of attorney where I can allocate somebody to act on my behalf. I have reached out to them again to make some more specific inquiries about any price, any trust funds, any of that nature, more specific information rather than the generalised nature that I have discussed initially. But the second time I went to Message Bank, I've left a message. They haven't contacted me back. And so next week I'll make another effort to contact the Jordanian embassy again. I did reach out on social media, and over a course of a couple of days, I did get a referral to a lawyer, and he's not a property lawyer, he's a humanitarian lawyer, but he has worked on behalf of somebody else that I have trusted because I've had a little bit of dialogue with on social media. So I've outreached to the lawyer in Jordan, made contact with him both via email, via WhatsApp, and his English is really good. I feel really confident and comfortable. He's given me a price, which when I compare that price of 1,250 JD, multiply that by 2, round it up to Australian dollars, which is going to be about, 2,500 Australian dollars, rounding it up to about 3,000 Australian dollars, which is about what I would imagine, what I have experienced when I've needed conveyancing for properties here in Australia. So if I'm using that as a guide, I'm feeling quite comfortable that it's not a really cheap price and it's not going to be a really expensive price. But once again, I've put that into my budget on what I'm going to be spending in Jordan. So I know that there's going to be a percentage for a purchaser's tax. I know that there's going to be a fee of about 750 JD for registering it in my name. There's going to be a similar type of fee to transfer the utilities into my name. So I have got this whole list on top of a purchase price of what a move to Jordan is going to cost me. I'll have no furniture. When you're looking at properties in Jordan, they do seem to sell on private sale. You can purchase them outright with cash. You can purchase them with a cash deposit and then incremental instalments. I will not have any capacity to be able to borrow money either here in Australia to purchase over there. I've made some inquiries. HSBC don't function in Jordan anymore, and they were the only ones doing international borrowing. I've contacted the Arab bank and they will not do a loan for a Jordanian property. My standard bank won't. I haven't gone to a broker. Should I need to, I guess I could try, but the interest rates on that would just be phenomenal. So I'm going to aim to purchase a property cash. I do have a person who has been looking at a few properties for me, and we kind of know what we want, and we want something that is less than 5 years old. We want something with a little bit of land. We want a minimum of 2 bedrooms, potentially 3 bedrooms. Minimum, of course, of 1 bedroom, preferably 2 bedrooms. Basements seem to have a bad reputation with water egress and with, they call it insects, whether that's ants or roaches or whatever, I don't know. And then the other part of the property that is always a bit cheaper is the roof often, but I've been told that roofs often are not permitted, so that when you do go to try and purchase it or resell it, because it's not permitted, you get yourself into a load of legal problems. So they are the 2 cheapest options, being in the basement of a building and being on the roof of a building, but anywhere in between. So less than 5 years old has to have a functioning elevator. When you purchase a property in Jordan or in the Middle East, you don't necessarily get a property that has a fitted kitchen, which is called an American kitchen, and the kitchen often has a door out to a balcony, which is called a passenger kitchen. So I'm just trying to learn the lingo to be able to understand what I'm reading and interpreting on any of the advertisements in relation to purchasing a property in Jordan. What I'm also noticing, because I have been reading a fair bit of literature, a flight for the November, I have sustainability issues in low-income housing, the health, heating and health concerns. Because heating in Jordan is pretty dirty, you don't have central heating. The type of building is a brick with a sandstone facade. It isn't well insulated and often has 2 things. It has water egress, so because the bricks are not sealed, water comes into the building, and then there's a lot of rising damp even on the upper levels. And then the other component of that is because of the poor ventilation and it's a really cold environment, the types of heating, the liquid gas and the propane type gas, are quite dangerous. So, and there's poor ventilation. And so this article, this journal goes into the health concerns in relation to that. The rising damp gives respiratory issues with fungal infections, of course asphyxiation, etc. So I am trying to be as cognizant as I can in relation to healthy buildings, air quality and water quality. I've also been investigating that. This one is the factors affecting the purchasing of houses. This was a study done in Irbid, a northern suburb, a northern city, and that was 2016. And it was fairly standard stuff in relation to the structure, the geography, the environment, and the economical reasons. So structural factors, you want it as young as possible, as new as possible, because the older buildings had different building codes. Geographical is relation to, do you want to be in the middle of the city next to public transport, or do you want to be in the hills, etc. Environmental is a relation to that healthy building, healthy environment stuff, and economical is, can you afford to buy where you want, what is the finishing of the building, etc. So it's a fairly standard, but it's a nice article, a nice journal. I have been reading here, it's once again, it's a bit old because there's nothing fresh online. A Foreigner's Guide to either renting or buying. So that one gives me all of the percentages of taxes and transfer fees, etc. Trying to get as much information as possible. So I've got the transactional costs, and that was dated 2022. So the information, some of the information is fairly up to date and some of it isn't. These next few pieces of paper, I've basically downloaded what the prices are for general products, what the incomes are, etc. But because I've been there on and off now for 6 years, this will be my 11th visit when I get there in November of 2023. Some of these costs, how much it costs to go out, how much it costs for, a 3-month rental and all that type of thing. So I've worked out using the calculations offered here how much it would be, and it's about 66,000 JD for a property in the area that I would like to live in. And of course this is all just averages, so of course I would like to pay a little bit less than that, so we'll just wait and see. But a way that buildings are sold in Jordan is on the meterage price. The building is 100 square metres and the price per square metre is 75, well it's going to be 75,000. It's a pretty easy calculation. That is one of the ways that that a property is sold in Jordan, is the per metered price. So I have outreached, as I say, to the lawyer. I'm waiting to get my special power of attorney. I'm waiting to get confirmation of a trust fund. I have approached my bank here about transferring the money. They have indicated that it is easier to transfer the money while I am in Australia to a Jordanian bank account through a third-party provider, which is clearly how international banking goes. Where when I asked about, can I notify you that I'm going to be spending X amount of money, so when I'm away you'll get this call, email, contact to be able to transfer the money to an overseas account, and they were very hesitant at doing that, where I can understand why that would be something that the bank would be pretty interested in protecting both myself and their own assets. But I do need to be able to find out how to move the money. I can carry physical cash apparently, as long as I declare it coming out of Australia. And there's a form that you fill out 3 days before you get onto a plane. There's a form that you fill out that you deliver when you get to Jordan, and there'd have to be a document that you carry to declare that you're carrying money through the transit country. So there is the capacity to carry large volumes of money apparently, which I didn't know. I know that there is a cap on the amount of money that you can take out of Australia, but this is very interesting. And when I suggested it to the person my friend in Jordan, the person that I'm going to be with, they just said, no, don't carry that volume of money. It's just not worth the risk. And if anybody knew about it, it would be very dangerous. So how I'm going to purchase the property in Jordan is still a project, still a process of evolving. Once I contact the Jordanian embassy, I'll get a little bit more information. So my plan to get to retirement in 2025 is on track. I haven't hit some of my targets. I overshot them, which is just absolutely fine, and then I'm re-evaluating my targets. My physical health, I am working at getting that as prime as I can. I'm supposed to have a knee replacement for my left knee, which is bone on bone at the moment, because I'm on an elimination food diet, so I've gotten less inflammation. That pain doesn't seem to be as bad. The right knee, which is my good knee, is the one that is disturbing me. All other health conditions, reflux, cancer, pseudomyxoma, peritoni, non-fatty liver, all the others seem to be all under control at the moment. But I have, when I made inquiries about the insurance that I'm going to require to live in Jordan for a year, I have disclosed to that company. I made the inquiry through Centaur, yeah, it begins with C. And with the disclosing my pre-existing conditions, they still cover me. And so that's how I know my premium is going to be a certain amount each month for when I live overseas, because you cannot live overseas without having an insurance policy. So finances, tick. Plan, action, board, tick. Health, tick. Work, in progress. To disengage from my current employer will be a work in progress. Taking all my leave at half pay to extend my disengagement plan. Let's just see how it goes. I have a few balls up in the air at the moment, but am I on my way to hitting my target of retiring at 60? The answer to that is yes. What it will look like, I still don't know. The backup plan will be go to live in Asia, go to live in the Philippines, go to live in Cebu, go to live somewhere else that maybe is going to be cheaper than living in Jordan, because the cost of living there never comes up as a good place to retire. But the reason I'm going there is just for a few years, 5 years or so. It's a plan, it's a thought. It can work out, it might not work out. As long as I've got a plan, I can always change my plan. Retire at 60. Yes, the goal is still that. Whether I retire at 60 or 61, we'll have to wait and see. Life is just a journey.